For the pandemic, my country, Japan, has done its best to maintain still social and economic recovery while protecting our people's life. I want to tell you that Japan, unlike other countries, has not implemented the kind of shutdown policy or legislation, but we have strongly advocated upon our people to do a better job. Then how about the outcome? After 1 month and a half, it's fair to say that Japan basically put the pandemic under control. Up to now in Japan, about 80,000 people have been infected with 1,500 fatalities in Japan. So among advanced countries, I think Japan has done a relatively good job. For the Japanese response to the pandemic, it tells us that the international society must work together, in particular in 3 areas. First, I think the countries should do a good job in terms of the development of diagnostics and vaccines and drugs, and there should be licenses of the patents. Second, there should be better training of talented people for the healthcare sector, and there should be the establishment of public health emergency centers. Third, the provision of medical supplies to international organizations and developing countries is important. Japan has provided 1.5 billion worth of the medical supplies. In Q2, the Japanese real GDP went down by 28%, but later, as individual consumption and production have come back to normal, the other economic indicators, I think, now already have recovered 90% of the pre-pandemic levels. In the Pacific region, Japan also is very supportive of other countries' economic recovery efforts by providing more than $400 billion of the loans. Also, China has been the pioneer in economic recovery after the pandemic. Chinese companies have played a very important role in economic recovery. In the process, we hope China's economy will remain open in a fair manner to businesses from other countries, as China is already a global manufacturing hub and a very important market. Third, I also want to say that I believe in the post-pandemic era, China in economics and other areas will have even increasing global influence in responding to climate change. In the international trade area, I believe China will play a bigger role. Japan's new prime minister not long ago at the UN conference also has said that Japan attaches great importance to multilateralism. About the uncertainties surrounding global economic development, Japan believes the international society, according to the laws and orders and the rules, should work together to push for economic recovery. That is very important. The pandemic reminds us that the international community should have more cooperation and coordination in economic field and also in other areas so that the global economy will prosper. Japan will do our utmost to support and help.
It is true that globalization may just help the speed of the spread of pandemic, but do you think that we can just go back to the time before the globalization? And is it possible for us to go back to the industrialization? And is it possible for us to go back to starting the agriculture? No, we can. Okay. inevitably, we would just face this kind of crisis. But as Ambassador Fletcher just mentioned, okay, this is a kind of development of human history and human technology. And when we just face the new stage, we can just obtain the new technology to cope with. So this is what we are. So what we should do is just strengthen our cooperation among us. Thank you. Okay, I think that the first principle is that all the personal data belongs to that person first. And as long as it is necessary, some part can be delivered to the authority. The second one is whether or not you can just keep your people's data just within your border. It is also okay, based on the regulations. So, although I'm afraid that how to just handle all those data is not really well discussed, and we are afraid that we have not enough law and regulations on these issues. And I'm afraid, again, that each country has a very different idea and way of thinking. So what we have to do is just start to discuss before you just make up your own rule. Thank you. What we are really worrying about is, as we have mentioned, 10 or 20 years ago, we didn't have any GAFA, we didn't have any BAT, and we will see 5G very soon. And we really don't know what is going on. And now we have to discuss this data is whose. Although we cannot just solve these questions, but then we'll just enter the second phase. And we cannot solve the new phase question. So what we are really worrying about is we are just left behind and we cannot find any solution. And finally, the situation is going on. Nothing is settled. That's what we are worrying about.